Good evening. I am Jenny Thomas. Currently, I serve as Routt County Clerk and Recorder. I'm just going to go over some important election information as we approach our 2023 Routt County Coordinated Election. Election Day is Tuesday, November 7th. Ballots will begin to mail out to all eligible voters on Monday, this coming Monday, October 16th. It'll be about 2 or 3 days after that, you'll start seeing them in your mailboxes. Blue books and Tabor notices have already been mailed out and they're arriving in your mailboxes now. This year, we have coordinated with the city of Steamboat Springs, the town of Hayden, the town of Yampa, Colorado Mountain College, and Eagle County School District on questions and candidates. Additionally, you'll see 2 statewide questions on your ballot. Sample ballots and blue book information can be found on our website or by popping into our office. Replacement ballots can be obtained in the clerk's office at 522 Lincoln Ave from now until our voter service and polling center opens. The last day to request that a ballot be mailed to you is 8 days before the election. That date this year is October 30th. After this date, I also don't recommend mailing a ballot back to us. You can drop your ballot off at one of the locations during their regular business hours, and these include the town of Hayden Town Hall, town of Yampa Town Hall, town of Oak Creek Town Hall, the Clark Store, the clerk's office. Additionally, we have 2 24/7 secure drop boxes under video surveillance. Those are located at 2025 Shield Drive at the old sheriff's office parking lot and in the alleyway behind the historic courthouse at 522 Lincoln Avenue. All ballot drop-off locations will be picked up at 7 p.m. on election day. Our polling center will open Monday, October 30th. This will be located in the community room of the new Health and Human Services building, located at the downtown county campus. That's 135 6th Street. The hours for the polling location are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. We will be open Saturday, November 4th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And polling on election day is open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Replacement ballots, machine voting, and voter registration can all be done at the polling center. Keep in mind, ballots must be received by 7 p.m. on election night. Postmarks do not count. On election night, we will have 3 different uploads of posting of results. The first will occur around 7 p.m. The second will be around 9 p.m. And the third happens before we leave for the night. And that typically happens around 11 or 12 midnight. The results will be posted on our website as well as the Secretary of State's website. So you'll be able to access those there. But keep in mind that our results do remain unofficial until after we audit and canvass the election. And that actually happens about 2 weeks after election day. So more election information you can find on our website. You can give our office a call. You can shoot me an email. I've left a bunch of cards out there, or just pop into the office and we can chat. Other than that, just make sure that we receive your ballot no later than 7 p.m. on election night.
Good evening. I'm John Chalstrom. I'm the assistant editor of the Steamboat Pilot. And first on our order this evening, we would like to give an opportunity to those who will be appointed to our school board this year, the opportunity to introduce themselves and speak. There will be no election this year, and the individuals will be appointed by acclamation. So I would like to introduce our 3 candidates or appointees, Kevin Callahan, Laura Craig, and Leah Helm. And I would ask that Kevin come up at this time and introduce himself and state why he wants to be a part of the Steamboat Springs School Board. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Unique position to be in, going first, and this being my first, foray into being part of the public community and being a representative for my community, and that's sort of what drove me to be a part of this. My name's Kevin Callahan. I've been a Steamboat resident for 8 years. I think I bring something sort of unique to the board in just bringing a dynamic difference to its representation. My kids are very young. I got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, so they're going to feel the full breadth of any policies and work that I put forward into the Board of Education here for our school district. So, and I also live on the west end of town. My daughter just started at Sleeping Giant. So, you know, having a little bit of representation for those, you know, those working class residential communities on the west end of town, somebody who's over there and sees what it's like to be near that school and has watched it, you know, come up in their community. I'm really interested to see how it serves our community. And, you know, my connection to education runs pretty deep. My mother was a teacher for 36 years in a public school. And, you know, and I've taught music since I was 20 years old to kids and everybody from the age of 6 to adults as well, you know, and I still do that, something I'm very passionate about. So I have a strong connection to arts and music and language. And I think that it serves a deep purpose within our community. You know, I want to continue to drive our students and our community to support each other inside of every capacity that it takes to be a wonderful leader in this society. And I think that starts with education. It starts with that investment in our children and what they're going to become through our support. And lastly, I just want to be a conduit for you all. I'm a representative. I'm a voice for you. So if you have something that you want to discuss or you feel like needs to be representative, that's what a board member's here for. So I truly look forward to the honor and privilege of working with you all. And if you want to come meet me or chat some more, the door's open and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Laura Craig.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Prepared speech. Theodore Roosevelt once said, far and away, the best prize life has to offer is the chance to work hard at work worth doing. 4 years ago, I was given just that chance. I embarked on a challenging journey with fellow board members, conducting an independent investigation on harassment in our schools. This effort led to the most current Title IX policies and a stronger emphasis on culture and climate throughout our district. Proactively leading the effort to update our mission, vision, and strategic plan, setting measurable goals based on high expectations for every student, I take pride in how this framework now guides our decision-making process. The pivotal achievement was hiring a new superintendent and elevating Steamboat School to the top 5% in the state. Despite the challenges posed by a pandemic, these initiatives represent only a portion of the crucial work conducted in the last 4 years. This experience taught me valuable lessons in collaboration with various stakeholders in the community, all in the pursuit of what's best for students. As an educator of 30 years, a parent of children educated in this district, and a lifelong community member, I am uniquely positioned to serve our schools. I am committed to sustaining positive momentum while making improvements in the district. Challenging every student at their optimal level of rigor through best practice is key. I believe all teachers should emphasize elements of literacy, and I support training in the science of reading across all subjects. Of particular interest to me is a cohesive K-12 math and writing curriculum. Evidence-based programming for our special populations, including special needs, emerging bilingual, and gifted students is a priority for me. And attracting and retaining top teachers by supporting affordable housing initiatives is imperative. Finally, given recent community events, we must continue to prioritize culture and climate efforts. Serving the educational needs of our children is the most worthy work, and I'm grateful for the chance to serve for another 4 years in this district. Thank you.
And our last speaker will be school board member Leah Helm.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leah Helm, and I have been a resident of Routt County for almost 15 years. I am very excited about this opportunity to serve on the school board because I am a firm believer in public education. I started in Steamboat Springs working at the downtown movie theater. But that quickly closed and I have been involved with Horizons ever since then. I am a passionate advocate of disability services and rights. So I hope to bring that knowledge to the school board. Like Kevin said, I also enjoy community and I think a strong community leads to strong education. So I would like to put myself out there to say that I'm available to the community and open to hearing opinions and appreciate everybody's opinions so that we can have a lovely school system for our children. Thank you.
All right. From here, we're going to move into some of the ballot issues that will be appearing this November. We'll start off with inviting a handful of people to talk about ballot issues in which we do not have people speaking for and against. We do have a handful of issues that we will bring up people speaking both for and against here in just a minute after we get through some of these uncontested ballot issues. So we'll go ahead and start off with the local ballot initiative 2F, and Joella West will be explaining that. Steamboat Springs City Council member Joella West. Sorry.
Good evening. So after all these Tuesday nights of telling members of the general public, you have 2 minutes and we're setting your timer and that's all you have? The tables are turned. I was told, talk about this. You have 2 minutes. So set your watches. This is question number 2F, and it relates to repurposing of the lodging accommodations tax. The 1% lodging accommodations tax was originally approved by the voters in 1986. The stated purpose then was to fund improvements and amenities which will promote tourism and enhance the vitality of Steamboat Springs as a premier destination resort and enhance the community identity, environmental desirability, and economic health of Steamboat Springs. In 2013, voters approved a ballot question reallocating 6.6 minutes, you got me, 6.6 million of the lodging tax revenue to be derived over the next 10 years to 4 projects: Haymaker Golf Course Capital Fund, the marketing of tourism-related improvements which were constructed with accommodations tax funds, the Yampa Street improvements, and trail projects included in the Trail Alliance proposal. The 2013 initiative expires at the end of 2023. By operation of law, if nothing is done, then as of 2024, accommodations tax revenues will all have to be spent in accordance with the 86 language. If approved, ballot question 2F directs the allocation of future revenues derived from the lodging accommodations tax to development and maintenance of improvements and amenities that enhance community identity, environmental sustainability, and economic health, acquisition of real property for parks, recreation, and open space, and preservation of the city's natural resources. It updates the objectives from 30 years ago by removing references to promotion of tourism. That's it.
Thank you, Joella. And speaking next, I would like to welcome Steamboat Springs City Council member Ed Baronis to the microphone to discuss Proposition 2G.
Not here? Oh, there you go.
Evening, everyone. Don't mind the hair. I haven't cut my hair yet in about 2 weeks. Been super busy. So the question for City of Steamboat Springs ballot, question number 2G. It's in regards to city council members' compensation increases. Shall the compensation of city council members provided for in section 2.2 of the revised municipal code be increased to an annual rate of $20,000 per year for city council members, $22,500 for the city council president pro tem, and $25,000 for the city council president, with said amounts to be paid on a monthly basis and to be adjusted every January 1, beginning January 1 of 2025 in accordance, is that right? 2025? In accordance with the Denver Boulder Consumer Price Index for the 12-month period most recently computed, with the increase in compensation to take effect January 1, 2024 for council members elected at the November 7, 2023 election on January 1st, 2026 for council members elected at the November 4th, 2025 election and immediately upon appointment for any council member appointed to fill a vacant city council seat after January 1, 2024. So basically what that means, anybody who's going to be elected on this current election cycle on November 7th of 2023 will get a higher rate starting January 1st of 2024. And then the remaining council members will be in 2026. My math is off, but I think that's right. If they get reelected, they'll get another pay raise as well. Cool? All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
All right, the final local initiative that we will have in this forum or have information presented will come from City Manager Gary Suter, who will be talking about local initiative 2H. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to the sponsors of the Candidates Forum. I need to disclose that I am here speaking as an individual and that I am officially off the clock. Want to make sure I'm compliant with fair campaign practices law. Referred measure 2H is a proposed amendment to our city charter. This is our city charter. This is the constitution of the city of Steamboat Springs. It's a small, very thin, but mighty document. And it proposes an amendment to one provision in this document regarding our required audit. The question reads, shall the city of Steamboat Springs Home Rule Charter be amended to extend the deadline for the completion of the independent audit required by section 9.11 from 120 days to 6 months by revising section 9.11 to read as follows. And then it basically just recites that section of the charter. The only thing that's changing in there is the timeline from 120 days to 6 months after the close of the fiscal year. Our fiscal year is a calendar year, so it ends on December 31st. Currently, our audit is required 120 days after that, and we are proposing to change that to 6 months. The reason for this is this charter stated, I can't see it, 1973. It's our 50th anniversary of being a home rule city. It's a solid charter, and we now have 12 individual funds. There's a single audit concept that requires auditing for all of our federal grants. We also audit the local marketing district and the Steamboat Springs Urban Renewal Authority. It's also consistent with state law as well. The 6 months is consistent with state law. So it's basically a housekeeping measure that modifies. This can only be modified by the people. And that's the summary of the ballot question. Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all being here.
All right, with that, we will be moving into the ballot issues in which we have speakers both for and against. And we will start with the statewide Proposition II, which will be focusing on the tobacco tax. And so I would like to welcome up to the stage speaking in favor, Katie Lee, and speaking in opposition, Heather DeVos. Yeah. We'll have you guys hold it together. And we'll go ahead and start with 2-minute opening introductions. Katie, if you would like to get us kicked off, we'd love to hear from you. Is that turned on?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's working. Okay. Now.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Katie Lee, and I'm speaking in support of Proposition II. Prop II is asking for approval to retain about $24 million in taxes that have already been collected from the sale of cigarettes, tobacco products, and nicotine products and the interest earned. A yes vote allows the state to allocate these funds to the much needed state pre-K program and continue to collect taxes at approved rates in the future. Whereas a no vote sends the almost 24 million back not to taxpayers who purchase the products, but to the tobacco and nicotine wholesalers and distributors and reduces the future tax rate. In 2020, Proposition EE was approved by voters across the state with an overwhelming margin. The measure increased existing taxes on tobacco and instituted a new tax on other nicotine products. At the tax rates established in Prop EE, the state estimated an increase in tax revenue of about $187 million. However, sales exceeded those predictions, and unless voters approve a new measure, the Colorado Constitution requires that the excess is refunded and future tax rates will be reduced. I believe saying yes to Prop II honors the intent of Colorado voters who overwhelmingly approved Prop EE. The legislature has set aside the approximately 24 million to be used for preschool programs. The research is clear that kids who attend preschool do better long-term, and I feel strongly that the choice for a child to attend preschool should not depend on your financial status. Unfortunately, this is not the case given the current funding level of the universal preschool program and the number of children who are interested. 24 million, which has already been collected, will go a long way toward allowing all Colorado kids to have the option to attend preschool regardless of their circumstances. In summary, I ask you to vote yes on Proposition II and allow the state to spend funds already collected on the future of Colorado's kids instead of put the money back into the pockets of the tobacco and nicotine industry.
Thank you, Kate. And Heather, if you would like to give us your opening remarks.
Oh, well, thank you, Eli, for the opportunity. I'm not quite as well prepared as Katie. I am really speaking out, maybe from a tax standpoint. The Colorado Constitution requires the state to ask voters for permission to create a new tax or to increase a state tax. So I am opposing this from that standpoint. When you look at the arguments against, and this is coming from their state ballot thing, it says it expands the government unnecessarily. Taxpayers are being asked to give up this refund and pay higher tax rates in the future in order to pay for a program that's already fully funded to the level that voters approved in Proposition EE. Proposition 2 is a tax increase. It imposes a financial burden on people suffering from addiction, particularly for people with lower incomes. Rejecting this proposition will reduce the high taxes on these products and provide tax relief to Colorado. And I just want my adding is that addictions are tough. And taxing them is not going to make it go away for them. They usually beg, steal, or borrow to make it happen. So I would recommend voting no on this and sending that money, allowing those people to keep that money.
Now, this was a little bit of a late edition, so we only have 2 questions prepared. Katie, since you went first, Heather, I'll go ahead and give you the first question. What do you think this would mean for the Steamboat School District, and how would the money be earmarked?
Well, obviously, if it passes, they're going to get money. And if it doesn't pass, they won't get that extra money. So I'm still, I guess I stand on what I said before. I don't think this is the right solution for those needs.
Same question to you, Kate.
So the initial commitment for universal pre-K was for 30 hours for all families interested. And when more kids signed up than they expected, they reduced a lot of those families down to 15 hours. So the gap at the state level is between 50 and 60 million. And so $24 million goes a long way to filling that gap, and it will affect families in Steamboat. We'll get them back to full funding.
And kind of shifting gears, next question, Katie, we'll ask you first. What would happen if the ballot initiative fails?
Well, we will go back to begging the state for more money through universal pre-K through the state's general fund and universal pre-K funding. But we have seen in the past that they do not even fully fund our per pupil funding by a constitutional number. So I don't have a lot of hope that we'll get all the way there, and any little bit, although this is not a little bit, any bit will help us with making sure that we're providing pre-K education to all of our families.
Okay. And same question to you, Heather. What do you believe will happen if this ballot initiative fails?
I believe those people that are going to be paying this tax will suffer. It will not cause them to stop. And as much as, you can plead that they need this for the preschool program, our state constitution requires a balanced budget. And I think they should have done some better planning.
And closing remarks. Katie, since you went first for opening remarks, would you like to go first for closing? Yes, sorry.
Yeah, so again, I just want to say that the money will not go back to the people who purchased the products, and likely all of that tax was passed on to them. The money goes back to the wholesalers and distributors for tobacco and nicotine products. And I think that people who passed Prop EE, which was quite a few, 67% of Colorado voters, would support that this money goes towards universal pre-K, which was in the initial funding request.
And Heather, closing statements.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm not fully up on speed on this 100%, but I believe that this is going to be an ongoing tax. Okay, so maybe in the shortfall, which is how normally taxes are sold, like this is what we're going to give you now, but in the long term, it's going to hurt these people.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to welcome Dr. Chalstrom up to moderate the Proposition HH discussion.
Proposition HH has probably generated as much discussion statewide as any other ballot initiative that we are seeing this fall. And to discuss this and speak in favor, I would like to call forward Routt County Commissioner Tim Corrigan. And speaking opposed, I would like to have Routt County Assessor Gary Peterson come to the stage. Have a seat. Good to see you. And Commissioner Corrigan, we will have you start first, speaking in favor of Proposition HH.
Great. Thank you all for being here. So right here at the beginning, I want to make clear that I am not here representing the Routt County Board of County Commissioners, but rather as an individual citizen expressing only my opinion on Proposition HH. In fact, the Routt County Commissioners will not be taking a position on HH. I am here to advocate for the passage of Proposition HH. I first want to acknowledge that the process by which Proposition HH was introduced and passed by the state legislature was flawed. It lacked adequate stakeholder involvement, and it is very complicated. Having said that, while the property tax savings are little, they aren't nothing. A generic house in South Routt that increased in value from $500,000 to $775,000 will save at least $150 in property taxes under the provisions of Property HH, even before including the property tax growth rate of local districts. Senior citizens will continue to receive $100,000 in valuation reduction, as well as an additional $50,000 deduction included in HH. But importantly, they will be able to continue to receive that deduction even if they choose to move to a different location. Currently, that $100,000 exemption is only allowed if you have been in the same house for 10 years. Finally, opponents complain that at the heart of Proposition HH, there is a diversion of dollars from your table refund to support K-12 education. I guess I see that as a feature and not a bug. I'm supporting HH because for the first time in decades, we want an opportunity to fund K-12 education at an adequate level. I don't know about you, but I think it is acceptable that our funding of public schools places Colorado almost dead last in 50 states for public school funding.
Mr. Peterson.
Okay. My name is Gary Peterson. I'm your Routt County assessor. I would say I'm here as 20% citizen speaking against Proposition HH and 80% is your assessor. Because much of the bill or the proposition has to do with property taxes. And I have been forced into reading this bill since it came out. This is the bill in front of me. It is 48 pages long. That is a very complicated bill. The complicated bills are about 6 pages long. A lot of them are 1 or 2 pages long. I had an assessor said he counted 14 separate topics to this bill. I've read it 4 or 5 times. I come up with different conclusions every time I read it. I talk to my peers. Nobody has a clear understanding of what this bill will do. And I've read pros and cons on it. And it's interesting. I don't think anybody clearly understands it, and certainly not the legislators that slammed this through at the end of the legislation. This was introduced late on a Friday night, 6 days before session ended. They spent 3 days over the final weekend into the Monday to pass this with about 3 or 4 amendments. They worked on a Sunday session, the legislators, first time in 80 years, to slide this past us. 30 seconds left. Can't go into details about it. I only have 2 minutes. I recommend that everybody read as much as you can on this pro and con. Property tax wise, it ain't going to do diddly squat to reducing your property taxes. This is a smoke and mirrors to get to your Tabor refunds. And they want to push $2 billion towards education. That's up to you to decide if, if that should be done and is there accountability in those billions of dollars being spent. Time is up.
Okay, thank you. I have 3 questions that we'd like to ask each of you, and we'll start with Mr. Corrigan. And the question, and then each will, then Mr. Peterson, I'd ask you to answer the same question. Here's my question to you, Mr. Corrigan. Do you think the public fully understands HH? And what can you say to add clarity to this issue?
The short answer is no. And as I stated earlier, the process was flawed, but I choose to focus on the benefits of Proposition HH. And they are pretty clear and pretty simple. It may not be much, but there is in fact property tax relief. And most importantly, and more importantly, is the funding of K-12 education in a way that we have never found another way to do it. And to assuage some of the fears of people about your Tabor refund, Proposition HH guarantees an $868 Tabor refund to every taxpayer in the state of Colorado this coming year. And your Tabor refunds in this year and in future years, the reduction will average about $46. Gary's right. It's a complicated bill. It's hard to understand, but those items are the truth.
Hey, Mr. Peterson, again, the question is, do you think the public fully understands HH? And what can you say to add clarity to the issue?
No, nobody fully understands this bill, including myself as the assessor. The legislators that passed it they are clueless on property tax and how it works, to be honest with you. The blue book is 13 pages long to try to explain this thing. That right there should tell you a lot of the complexity of this bill. And as I go through it and read it, it doesn't provide a whole lot more clarity. I'm not sure about his facts, Mr. Corrigan, like the $50,000 reduction off the top of your value. That's for 1 year, then it drops down to 40,000, but 50,000 is only up from 15,000. It was already promised in another bill, 22,238. The drop in the assessment rate on residential property is less than 1%. The drop on commercial property is less than 0.2%. I calculated that out on $1 million house. With the $50,000, it's about $115, $125 here in Steamboat. On a commercial property, it's less than $25 savings in property tax on $1 million building with $11,200 tax bill.
Okay, Mr. Peterson, thank you. And you will have the first opportunity to answer the next question. And then Mr. Corrigan, I would ask that you answer the next one. And I would like to remind all speakers to view the timers in front. They will give you a 30-second warning. And then we want to honor everybody's time by finishing up when they say time. So, Mr. Peterson, here is my question to you. Will Proposition HH increase or decrease the overall tax burden for Colorado residents?
Which tax?
I said tax, no, overall taxes.
I would say it will increase because they're going to take your total refunds and hundreds of dollars and give you back about $100.
Okay. Mr. Corrigan, same question.
As I previously stated, the facts are clear. There absolutely will be a property tax decrease for property taxpayers across the state. I understand that property tax decrease may not be as much in Steamboat Springs, in particular because of the idea that Routt County as a governmental entity is limited by Tabor, and also that the Steamboat Springs School District is the only school district in this out of 164 school districts that never debruced. So I openly acknowledge that these reductions are not large, but they are real.
Just to follow up on that question, the question was not about property tax, but the overall tax burden. Could you add clarity to that statement, please?
So I think this would be an area where Gary and I would agree. I think that's an extremely complicated question. Hard to say. If my table refund at my house is reduced by $46 and my property taxes are reduced by $150 for me in my particular location, the answer is yes, it does represent an overall decrease in my taxes.
Okay, thank you very much. Last question, and we'll start with Mr. Corrigan. What are the ramifications for the state of Colorado if Proposition HH passes?
Pretty clear. There is, and again, as I acknowledged previously, this is in fact a diversion of your Tabor refund to fund K through 12 education. Beyond that, by virtue of funding K through 12 education, it may provide some other space within the state budget to address some other really pressing needs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Peterson.
The legislators say they need your Tabor refunds to pay for these property tax decreases. The amounts are minute. The Tabor refunds they want, and they want to spend it on education mostly. That's fine. That's up for you to decide. Colorado Association of Realtors came out opposed to this proposition. And they do a very thorough examination of these propositions. And they mentioned in Colorado, you have about 800,000 households that rent their property. So they will lose their Tabor refunds, get zero on property tax reductions. And again, the bill's 48 pages long. The ballot measure language is 6 lines long to explain it to a voter. And it starts out with, shall the state reduce property taxes for homes and businesses? They are very deceptive in how they're selling this to the public.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both. Appreciate you coming forward. Oh, I'm sorry. This is my first time. I apologize. So you each have 1 minute to close. So I believe we opened with Mr. Corrigan, so I will give Mr. Peterson 1 minute opportunity to close. Thank you.
Sure. As I said before, everybody needs to take the time and read up on this proposition because the ballot measure will not explain it to you. And everybody has an opinion on funding education. And yes, this will throw billions of dollars towards education, and that can be a good thing. Is that money well spent? Does the government spend money well? Or are you better off keeping your Tabor refunds? But trust me, the property tax decrease is very, very little to hardly measurable. Thank you.
Mr. Corrigan.
Prop HH is not perfect, but it does in fact provide property tax relief that is directed at primary homeowners, not second homeowners or LLCs that scoop up residential properties in our community to generate a profit. Next year, under Prop HH, every taxpayer in Colorado will receive a Tabor refund. Placing this question on the ballot is the very essence of Tabor. It places the question of reducing property taxes while at the same time adequately funding K-12 education on the ballot. It leaves this choice where it belongs with the voters. We already have a crisis here in Routt County of finding enough teachers for our kids. Don't kid yourself. The situation is only going to get worse. We have to ask ourselves, are we willing to give up a small portion of our Tabor refund to ensure we can provide a decent education for our kids? For me, the answer is yes. Thank you.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
All right. For our last ballot initiative, I would like to welcome Reese Freeman to the stage and Ken Malden. Reese will be speaking in favor of ballot initiative 2I, and Ken will be speaking in opposition to it. And just as a reminder, this is the ballot initiative that would devote 75% of Steamboat Springs short-term rental tax over the next 20 years to the Yampa Valley Housing Authority for development of the Brown Ranch property. And so to start us off, Reese, if you would like to offer opening remarks, microphone is yours.
Sure thing. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Got some beautiful weather going on in this fall, but I think no matter whether it rains or it shines here in Steamboat Springs, it's always beautiful. So I like looking at it. Today, I'm lucky enough to be here because a lot of people my age are unfortunately not here anymore. I'm happy to be talking about 2I. 2I, this ballot has to do with a commitment to housing and a commitment to people who say, I want to stay here. I want my friends and I want my families to stay here. And I want their families to stay there. So we all want to stay here in beautiful Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and we want our businesses to grow and our businesses to create. We want to build businesses like Smartwool. We want to build the finest homes in the world. We can't do that. We don't have a workforce. So we all want to stay here in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. So here we are at the next stop, another decision, keep up on what's important to us as a community and keep us here in Steamboat Springs. Remember that last ballot initiative, short-term rental tax? That was a big deal. This one moves 75% of that short-term rental tax to a community, to a plan that we envisioned 24 years ago to solve a crisis that we saw coming today. That's the Brown Ranch. This Brown Ranch project has been meticulously devised with over 3,000 community members, 200 meetings, and a steering committee as well as several reputable nationally recognized consulting groups, and this project's at our doorstep. I'd be happy to support this project, and I'm happy to support the Housing Authority, who will be receiving these funds to make this project a reality, because I trust them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeland. Mr. Malden.
Hello, my name is Ken Malden. There's no question that there was a serious housing issue in our community, but it's not taxpayers' responsibility to subsidize the labor expenses of private for-profit businesses. I strongly support providing public housing assistance to essential public employees. Helping to provide housing to teachers and firemen, police officers is a community responsibility. There's no question there in my mind. However, I disagree that taxpayers are responsible for subsidizing the labor expenses of private for-profit companies. While this is presented as critical employee housing, and it's couched as housing, what it really does is it subsidizes the labor expenses of private for-profit businesses. If businesses paid more of a working wage, they would need taxpayers to subsidize their business operations with free money. But I'm against the ballot measure for two reasons. It's physically and socially irresponsible. It's physically irresponsible because even if the STR passes, we still can't afford it, according to the city. The project's dependent on grants that have not been secured and may not be secured. It's dependent on future increases in tax increases and higher mill levies at unknown future rates. It's socially irresponsible because the AMI schedule of eligibility means that we're going to have people that are at this level of income subsidizing the endeavors of people that are at this level of income. Let's focus taxpayer funds on helping essential public employees and not give business owners access to taxpayers' bank accounts to subsidize their labor expenses. I'm against the 75% ballot tax measure. I think that taxpayers should help essential public employees, and business owners should manage their own affairs with their own capital. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malden. Now we have 3 questions prepared for you, and Mr. Malden, we'll go ahead and start with you first. Will devoting 75% of the city's short-term rental tax revenue to the development of the Brown Ranch property be enough to ease the city's affordable housing crisis? Would you like to elaborate?
Well, I think that the math's pretty clear. The money's not there. The money is just not there. And even if the money was there, there's still the question, there's still the moral question of, are taxpayers going to subsidize a $1 billion corporation like Altera so they don't have to pay a higher wage because taxpayers are filling the gap? That I don't think it's right that these private business owners should enjoy a lighter payroll cycle because the taxpayers of Steamboat Springs are picking up that tab. I think that when you endeavor to run a business, that's your responsibility. You shouldn't expect taxpayers to subsidize your labor expenses so that you can find employees to run your for-profit business.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman, will devoting 75% of the city's short-term rental tax revenues to development of the Brown Ranch property be enough to ease the city's affordable housing crisis?
Yeah, I think we need to be clear that we're talking about a ballot measure that is not a tax increase. It's an allocation of a resource. that we already have. And that resource is going to an organization that has already successfully been putting houses in the ground. So yeah, any fund, this is the next step. Any funding that we can get from this short-term rental tax is going to go to putting houses in the ground. And on top of that, before we have any vertical or horizontal construction, we're able to use that short-term rental tax money to fund city projects like Highway 40 and public parks. So I think this is a great bill because it's good economics. I mean, we allocate resources to housing and we get some infrastructure as a bonus in there.
All right, thank you, Mr. Freeman. And we'll start with you for the next question. If the ballot measure fails, how do you think that would affect the development of the property?
It'd be terrible. It'd be a misfortune, right? I mean, we've got an STR tax revenue that's going to the city and then it's got nowhere to go. I mean, the Yampa Valley Housing Authority is the community accountable organization with the proven track record putting houses in the ground. So where else would the money go?
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Lund. If the ballot measure fails, how do you think that would affect the development of the property?
Well, I think that if the ballot measure fails, then that's going to be a signal from the community that we need to rethink this. That there's no question that we have housing issues. There's no question there's a housing problem. The question is, and what we're here to talk about today is whose problem is it? There is a problem. Whose problem is it? That I think that if the STR failed, then that would open the door for government to, in my mind, stay in their lane and meet their responsibilities to the community, which number one would be providing housing for essential public employees. And then number two, government's role in housing development is zoning. So we would have to explore how that property could be zoned in such a way that it could be developed for housing. That I'm not opposed to developing housing. I'm opposed to taxpayers subsidizing the labor of private businesses and then calling that housing.
Thank you. And moving on to our last question. Go ahead and stay on you, Mr. Malden. Is the ballot initiative a referendum on the Brown Ranch project itself, or do you see this as purely a funding question?
I think it's actually both. That I think that we saw last night that the city council decided that they were going to put the annexation to the voters. I think that had the city council made that decision sooner, that the voters deserve a voice on such a large project with unknown future expenses, it could have been placed on the ballot that we're going to be sending in the next few weeks. But because it wasn't taking that approach, I think that they just thought that it was just going to go through and that, that they weren't going to have to win a public argument or a public vote. So now that it's been put to a public vote, in a sense, I think they put the cart before the horse. But that's because I think they just assumed that it was going to go through and that everybody was going to love it. So, you know, will it eliminate the Brown Ranch if it doesn't go through? I think that it would slow it down a lot. The fact that the Yampa Valley Housing Authority owns the land, I think puts them in a position to continue negotiating that.
Thank you. And for you, Mr. Freeman, is the ballot initiative a referendum on the Brown Ranch project itself, or do you see this as purely a funding question?
Well, it's like a order of operations question, which is why I disagree about the cart before the horse. It's we need funding to put houses in the ground, and where else in Steamboat can we expand? And so if we don't get the funding, the Brown Ranch is going to slow down. It's going to be more difficult to develop the most developable part of our city. And it's important to push this ballot through because it allows our city to expand and grow in the direction that we've been trying to forecast for over 24 years now.
Thank you. And moving on to closing remarks. Mr. Freeman, since you offered opening remarks first, if you would like to offer your closing remarks now.
Sure, I'll try to be as quick as possible, but I just kind of want to share a story about how bad it is. And when I moved to this town 7 years ago, I moved into a house and we had a guy living in the mudroom. Now that was a little weird, so I tried to get out there and I moved into the Selby cabin. I loved the Selby cabin, but the kitchen sink leaked into the electrical panel and I lived downstairs and there was no egress. So it's probably good that it got torn down, though maybe not the Marriott to replace it, but we had to get out of there. And then I moved into like basically a flop house where I was trying to do grad school. So in 2 years, I had to move 3 times and it was incredibly stressful. That flop house got also remodeled to a luxury house when everybody had to leave. 3 of those guys left altogether out of Steamboat. Eventually I moved to Riverside, loved Riverside, but my housing was so stressful and I wanted to buy that house so bad. It was $400,000 when I first moved in there. Eventually that turned into my landlord having an issue with our security deposit. It eventually ended in court, sucked. Now I'm going month to month. Thank you. That house is $1.4 million now.
Thank you. Mr. Malman, if you'd like to offer your closing remarks now.
I think that we all recognize that we need housing. And again, this comes down to what is the community's responsibility where housing is concerned and what are our private business responsibilities where housing is concerned. I believe that the community should step up and that we should do whatever we have to do to provide housing assistance to our essential public employees. But I think that the idea that somebody can come to Steamboat and open a restaurant and not have to pay a full wage because the taxpayers are picking up that gap, I think that's problematic. That I'm personally not interested in subsidizing the labor expenses of private businesses. I mean, what are we going to be bussing tables next? That when somebody comes in and they buy a business, it's their responsibility. It's not the community's responsibility to subsidize those labor expenses. And I just don't think that there's any examples anywhere in America of a public housing project of 5,000 people that was a success.
Thank you. I appreciate both your time very much. All right, that will do it for our ballot initiatives. Next, we will be focusing on some of the city council races. We will start with the ones that are uncontested, starting with District 1, Brian Swintek. If you would like to come up and offer some remarks.
Hi, I'm Brian Swintek. I am running for City Council in District 1 unopposed, but I don't take that for granted. We intentionally moved to Steamboat a year ago this July, so I've been here a very short time. I moved here because I was starting an ice cream business, Magic Chunk. It's amazing. But I moved here because I wanted to start the business in a place I wanted to stay in. And I have dreams of one day I'm one of the people who says, oh, I've been here for 40 years. But I've only been here 10 minutes and I'm afraid that that dream may be at risk. And rather than sit here and complain, I would like to be part of the solution. And so I don't have all the answers. I am new here, but I have spent this time to talk to different people in the city, different people in town, to learn more and to try to proactively be part of the solution. We're at a really difficult point and an inflection point, but I think that if we stick together, lean into that sense of community and really try to push forward on these big topics, that we can actually move the goalposts forward and make some real change. And that's it. Oh, I thought I only had a minute. I have 2 minutes. Well, thanks.
District 2 running unopposed is Michael Anthony Bacino. Mr. Bacino, could you come forward, please?
Hi, everyone. It's not as late as last night. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it all. Yeah, I feel honored to be able to run unopposed again. I was blessed back in 2019 and I'm running again. So I wanted to come here today and respect you guys, be part of this forum to let you know a little bit about me. So I thought I would take just a moment. If some of you don't know who I am, I have been here since 1997. Moved here, got married to my wife who works at SOSI. She does the MRIs. So if anyone gets MRI, that's my wife. She's been here a little bit longer than I, and we met, and I have three wonderful kids. Grayson is the senior in football. My son Mikey, I'm not going to apologize for him, but if you guys get stopped because he's a police officer and he gets a ticket, you're doing something wrong. Because my son is awesome on that, but he does. So Mikey's a cop, and I've been here for a long time, and I really appreciate this last 4 years. And I've definitely learned a lot. It was a couple of 4 years prior to that. I was on planning commission. I own Steamboat Interiors. I've been doing interior. I got a degree in interior design from a College of Architecture at Arizona State. Moved here, like I said, and a couple of years back, I was intrigued with the housing crisis as well. And I built those tiny houses out in Milner. You didn't know that was kind of a proof of concept. I wanted to believe, what does it really cost here? As I'm on council and I have all these different things, it's been really good to be able to use that experience to find out why and what does it really cost here in this town. And so a lot of the ballot initiatives, we're going to see how they turn out. But if you read the paper this morning, you kind of know how I stand on the Brown Ranch. And last night I voted to get the annexation in. There's a lot of issues that I have very deep knowledge on, and that's just the way I believe. So I continue to want to be here, be available to you guys, and also just I'm using common sense into my council, and that's what I'm trying to bring into this thing, is a business sense and a common sense. So I thank you for this opportunity.
We do have a contested race in District 3 where Amy Dixon and Jeff Leader are both vying for a seat. I would ask each of them to come forward and take a seat. Each will give an opening statement, and then that will be followed with 4 questions. And I promise a closing statement this time to the candidates. So, Jeff, could you come up here as well? Is Mr. Leader here this evening? Okay, no. Okay. Amy, I'll give you the microphone and you can give an opening statement, and then I have 4 questions.
Okay, you all hear me? Hi, thanks for sticking around. I do appreciate it. So I'm Amy Dixon. I'm running for City Council, District 3, but you all can vote for me regardless of district. I have been a full-time resident and have called Steamboat home for the past 28 years. Like many of you, I quickly embraced and fell in love with the sense of community, the natural beauty, our rich history and heritage, and the robust recreational offerings that the Yampa Valley provides. I met my husband here, and we have raised our beautiful daughter, who has since moved on to the University of Colorado Boulder. My personal and professional life have been focused around individual and community health. I have a master's in public health and have spent my career in the healthcare industry and field, specifically in operations, financial management, and policy. I currently work for the state of Colorado in the state Medicaid department. And prior to working for the state of Colorado, I was chief operating officer and chief financial officer for a large nonprofit healthcare organization. I am running for city council because I love Steamboat. I have a deep commitment and connection to our community. It's important that decisions are made that best represent our community values. And my priorities stem from that profound commitment to the community. And the priority areas for me, which we've already heard and we'll hear again, I'm sure from other candidates, is affordable housing, climate action, fiscal responsibility, and yes, those can all work together, and then transparency. My love for Steamboat is really why I'm up here and drives my commitment to
Okay.
advocate for our
Thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Dixon, since Mr. Leader is not in attendance, I'm going to ask you 4 questions. Okay, so I hate to put you under the gun right now, but here we go. Question number 1. How would you propose addressing staffing issues that plague civil agencies, such as not having enough local police officers to cover the city currently?
great question. What? Was it off? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, starting over. Okay, staffing issues that are plaguing. So, yes, plaguing not only for the city employees, but I think every single business in Steamboat, not only Steamboat, really throughout Colorado and throughout our country. I think one, affordable housing. We have to find ways for folks to be able to move here. We hear that from our teachers, they accept positions and they can't find a place to live. I think affordable housing is critical. It's time we address that within our community. And then, of course, I'm not going to tell a business how to run their own business. I think there are ways to look at incentives to keep staff within their organization, within their business. But I think affordable housing is the first step.
Okay, very good. My second question to you is, can Steamboat Springs transportation infrastructure sustain the city's growth, and how would you propose tackling that problem?
I love that question. So thank you. Okay, so the transportation in Steamboat. So we hear about traffic congestion and there's no parking downtown. I tie this to the Routt County Climate Action Plan. So one, let's find ways to get vehicles off the road. Let's find ways to invest in public and private transit opportunities. Does this mean we look at creative ways for micro transit? Absolutely. I don't think anything is off the table when we look at the transportation. I think it is about providing convenient and accessible transit for not only residents, but for our visitors. Our visitors need an option besides just renting a car from the airport and driving into town. I'll close with that.
Okay, very good. What priorities would you bring to the city's budget?
The priorities for me tie into the fiscal management. How we spend and allocate our financial resources represent our community values. So looking at what are the community values, and that's where we should be focusing our funds. Looking at our capital budget. Are all the capital projects in line with our community values? They should be. I also bring a very strong financial background from the nonprofit field, which translates over into looking at a government budget. And so for me, it's really using community values when we look at our financial budgets and our operating budget.
Okay, very good. And my last question is, what qualities do you have that make you the preferred candidate to represent Steamboat Springs for District 3?
Okay. So I'll stop saying I love Steamboat. I think I've already showed that enough. One, in my personal and professional life and career, I lead with kindness and humility. That will be brought to the city council. I also have a very strong background in financial management. Coming from a nonprofit, you only have so much revenue coming in, so you can only have so much of the expenses going out. And so making sure it's balanced and fair.
And so, and my deep commitment to the community and being here for 28 years and understanding the community for today and the future and welcoming others that are coming in tomorrow, next year, and 5 years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now you have time for a closing statement. It's all yours.
Take a breath walking up like stairs. Okay. Some of you already heard this. And how long do I have? A minute? 1 minute. Okay. When I think about Steamboat, again, some of you heard this, I think about coming over Rabbit Ears Pass, and we all know that view of the South Valley and the beautiful green landscape and the ranches and the open space and the Yampa Valley going through that we want to maintain. And I think about coming into downtown, and I want to continue to see a vibrant and thriving community. I want to see less cars. I want to see people to be able to, who are driving, to be able to park. So more transit to get people around. Then as we're making our way through downtown in the West Steamboat, yeah, I want to see affordable housing. People have already said that's where the development has been planned since the 90s. That's where we should be looking. And so we can house, I'm not going to say workforce, I'm going to say our community, because it's all of our community. That's my vision for Steamboat. Thank you.
All right, before we get into our last forum of the night, I would just personally like to thank all of our partners, the Steamboat Springs Board of Realtors, the Steamboat Chamber, and then also the Routt County Republicans and the Routt County Democrats, in addition to our two awesome timekeepers, Catherine Carson and Kathy Meyer, who have been helping us out tonight. Please give them a round of applause. And for our final forum of the night, I would like to welcome Daryl Dog Levin, Robert Gallarath, Steve Muntean, and John Augusta to the stage. They are running for Steamboat Springs City Council at large. And we got two microphones, so we may have to share a little bit. And if we I can start with opening statements from Mr. Levin. The microphone is yours, sir.
Okay, yeah. My name's Gerald Dog Levin. I lived in this valley for 48 years. One thing I can say is there's never been affordable housing in this valley in the 48 years that I lived here. In fact, with my first wife, when we bought property here, we lived in a 20-foot Cheyenne teepee for 2 years, winter, 78, 79, so we could build a home here. I'm not opposed to seeing affordable housing in this valley, but I'm not a big fan of supporting affordable housing with funding that they're proposing to do. I have a lot of experience. I've lived here a long time. I've owned 2 businesses. I owned Chelsea's Restaurant back in the days at Oak Creek. I lived in the county many years. I've lived in the city many years. I brought one of the 3 marijuana businesses, and I'm sure the city loves the taxes from it in this valley. And my passion for the valley is one of the biggest things that I have. And I would like to see the valley retain some of the beauty, the wildlife, and what we have today. Like I said, we got a lot of projects going, a lot of buildings being built right now. Let's finish what we got. Let's fix our infrastructure for the city of Steamboat Springs and the people who live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gallarath, if you would like to offer your opening statements.
Yeah, my name's Routt. I'm running for Steamboat Springs City Council at large, trying to fill the boots of Ed Baronis. Be a tough job. I'm not sure how much time I have, so I'm going to gloss over or even skip introducing myself. Maybe I could fill that in the follow-up. The reason I'm running is because no one else will. 2 of these seats are uncontested. There's not enough people running for city council, for school district to even have an election. So I want to focus on the issue that's impacting our community most, and it's housing. And I don't believe it's a housing issue that's impacting us and a town issue. It's a lodging issue. If they could adjust the zoning issues or building issues or laws, so they could build a couple but they could build solar panel farms and wind farms. They could build a couple large hotels. And then you could move the tourists out of the single family homes and move the families into the single family homes. Then you move the tourists out of the condos and move in the young professionals and the young couples. Then you could move the tourists out of the multi-dwelling units like Trappers Crossing and such, and move in low-income people and the employees. Then while you're at it, we got a Union Pacific Railroad that we're not moving any coal on anymore. We could move tourists, we could move commuters, we could move employees. They could move the people from Oak Creek to Steamboat to Milner to Craig. And that will help those villages prosper and grow and develop and from our growth and development. And then while you're at it, you could ask the mountain to kick in their fair share. They got $200 million to build a lift, a skate rink, an escalator, and some food court. They could spend a little bit of money to build a gondola down to the Meadows parking lot, maybe build up the parking lots up at the mountain, and maybe they could redevelop Ski Time Square that's totally gone to the dumps. Do I have more time?
Thank you. Mr. Montaigne, if you would like to offer your opening remarks.
Yes, I would. Thank you and welcome everyone. I'm Steve Montaigne and I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I feel like everybody who's talked today is passionate about Steamboat, but I have to say that when we first came here almost 30 years ago, my wife and I came because it is an authentic Western town and we love the culture, we love the community, the character, the lifestyle here. And I believe we need to protect and hopefully enrich that character, that lifestyle, that community we have moving forward. And that's why I'm running for city council, because I'm passionate about keeping what we have, preserving that, but hopefully enriching it as we move forward. Now, we have a lot of issues. We have a lot of challenges we have to face, and I will bring a very common sense, solution-focused, balanced approach to the situation. If I tried to move here today, I got to be honest with you, I couldn't afford to. I don't know about you, if you could either at $1,000 a square foot to build a new home here. I also know that I have young friends who pay $3,000 a month to rent a place. And for that, they need about $130,000. And that isn't easy. So we do have an affordable housing issue that we need to address because we don't want the demographic that is moving out of here to be the group between 25 and 40. We want that to be increasing. And this results in a shortage of workers as a result of all this. And you know it. You can go to Walgreens drive-through window and nobody's there. You can go to City Market Deli and have a sign up that they have a shortage. You can try to get work done in your home for 6, 12, 18 months it may take to get it done. So we do need to deal with this worker shortage, and there are things we can do. And at the same time, I think the other thing we have to do is manage the growth in tourism and balance that with the needs of locals. I mean, we have to maintain and expand many of our facilities we have. We have to protect open space and the wetlands. We have to continue to develop our trail system, deal with parking and congestion. And these are just a few things that I think we need to do. And I will bring, as I said, a common sense, solution-focused, balanced approach. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Augusta, if you would like to offer your opening remarks now.
Thank you. Hi, first of all, I'm everything at Steamboat. I bike about 100 days a year. I ski about 100 days a year. I float the Yampa. I paddle the Yampa. I wet my fly rod in the Yampa. My wife Lee and I have a son in Steamboat Springs High School, and he competes with the mountain bike team and Winter Sports Club Big Mountain team. My background, past 12 years, I've actually been building relationships with a lot of high-tech companies. Google, Microsoft, HP, Intel, Amazon, building and, be responsible for and delivering, contracts of tens of millions of dollars. And so I understand building relationships and building partnerships hands-on. My skills are in the area of partnership building and collaborative solutions and driving results from data. Why am I running? I love Steamboat. Of course, everyone does, and this is my home. I'm running, because I see struggles with residents are having today, and these struggles are based upon decisions that we've made 20 to 30 years ago. We have a lot of missed opportunities based upon what we thought would happen 20 to 30 years ago, and we need to have that bigger, take a step back to have that bigger solution offering and not miss the next opportunity. The election from 2 years ago was about housing, and it is still about housing today. We can and should be celebrating, folks, what the opportunities we have here. We can grow smartly. Brown Ranch is one of those, one of the pieces of the solution. It's more than that, but I want to leave you with one thing. Lack of housing is changing our diversity. A vibrant community is a diverse community. We cannot have a vibrant community if we do not have diversity. And look at that time.
Thank you. All right. We have four questions prepared for you. We will ask all of you the same questions. And so we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Gallerath. And first question, do you support the Brown Ranch development plan? Why or why not?
Well, I think I just kind of went over in my opening speech of issues with Brown Ranch. I have an important question that I didn't get a chance to speak is somebody gave $24 million to buy that property. We don't even know who that person is. We don't know their connection to the future development of that property. And anybody who believes that they're going to expand Highway 40, they're going to build the infrastructure out to Brown Ranch. They're going to build 2,500 homes in Brown Ranch. They're going to build a school, police station, fire station, strip malls, and shopping center, and they're all going to do it in parks. $50 million in parks. We're going to all do this for like $100 or $150 million. There's no way. It's going to take 10 to 20 years, and we know how inflation is going. You know how much, a bottle of chocolate syrup's going from $1.50 to $3 or $4. There's no way they're going to get it done for less than $500 million. So that's my comment on Brown Ranch.
Mr. Martin, you support the Brown Ranch development plan. Why or why not?
I think Brown Ranch is part of our affordable housing solution. I think one of the concerns that many of us have had is there's been confusion about exactly what's fact and what is fiction. Some people will tell you that it's $50 million short in infrastructure, specifically transportation and water and in the roadways. Others will tell you it's $50-some million worth of parks. Well, it can't be both. And I think we need to get rid of the confusion and we need to put together a sound financial plan. Because, Jason Peasley, he has put up 70 to 100 units for the last 5 or 6 years. In Brown Ranch, every year, they'll do about 100 units, which is about what he's doing today. So I think we just have to go through and come up with a financial plan that is funded appropriately and use Brown Ranch as part of our affordable housing solution.
Thank you. Mr. Augusta, same question to you. Do you support the Brown Ranch development vision? Why or why not?
Absolutely. And we do have a sound financial plan. I'm a data guy. I've looked at the data. I've met with the council members. I've looked and I've talked to the city and I've talked to the housing authority. We have a plan. And if you look into the details, they are there. People are concerned about growth and how fast this thing is too big. How big is this? 112 units per year. That is not big. And by the way, how much money is being spent on Highway 40 in our budget next year? Anybody know? 0. How much money is improving our infrastructure for water for next year, which they say is critical to success, whether Brown Ranch is there? 0. How much money will the city have for those projects if Brown Ranch goes through? $50 million goes right to the city directly today. Well, actually next year, once this is passed. Thank you.
Mr. Levin, same question to you. Do you support the Brown Ranch development plan? Why or why not?
Absolutely not. I think it's total madness to support something that they're asking over $250 million from the city on the STR funds to support something that has one egress and one ingress, and that is not changing. And there's a good chance that our financial situation in this country is going to take another downturn, which I've seen living here twice in my life. 1980, 2007 created havoc, and I mean serious havoc around our country, let alone here. We're always the last to come out of this. Some goes sideways, and all of a sudden, interest rates, we don't control any of that. Feds control that. We don't control mortgage rates. There's a good chance in 69 municipalities in this country in the last 13 years has filed bankruptcy, Chapter 9, 3 of them, at least I know of, because of what we're trying to do right here with Brown's Ranch. Thank you, sir.
Moving on to the next question, we'll start with Mr. Martin. Do you believe that allowing snowmelt systems powered by fossil fuels runs afoul of the city's climate goals?
I think the climate action plan that we have, which covers 5 pillars, is the goal. That's what we're trying to get to. That's what we're trying to develop. As far as the snowmelt piece is concerned, I will tell you that if the study that I saw says that if you do snow melt in your driveway versus if you use a snow blower or a snow plow, it releases 90 times as much carbon in those kind of situations. I think we need to move our technologies over to environmentally sound technologies, and snow melt to me should only be used in situations where we maybe have some disability issues, and we need to take care of that because there are problems that we have with falling and all that with elderly people. But I think overall the direction is clear on this. If we have the technologies and the cost and the return in place, then that's the direction we need to go.
Thank you. Mr. Augusta, do you believe that allowing snowmelt systems powered by fossil fuels runs afoul of the city's climate goals?
It does. The climate action plan clearly states, what we need to do and the measures that we need to get to by 2030 and then 2050. And this does run afoul. Now, that stated, I don't have enough data in terms of what to do alternatively when we want to allow those types of systems. I do question when we move away from, shoveling snow. But I do recognize that we are in a society where people like to, I won't go there. I'm sorry about that. It runs afoul, but I would need to look at what are the alternative solutions going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Levin, do you believe that allowing snowmelt systems powered by fossil fuels runs afoul of the city's climate goals?
Yeah, I think it does. But at the same time, I'm also a firm believer we're going to be using fossil fuels for the next 50 years, maybe longer. What the new city building? What's that running on? Electricity, gas? That's that's not getting away from anything for using new energy, affordable energy, green energy. In the future, down the road, absolutely. We need to move towards the future. We need to move towards clean energies and stuff. I'm all for it. I'm all for solar. I'm all for wind. I'm all for what we have. We're going to still use coal for the next 3, 4, 5 years and maybe longer. The initiatives on global warming and stuff. We got countries, China, Russia, that they're building 3 coal plants a week. So analyze people in our own country talking about jobs for turning over to new energy. I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Levin. And last, Mr. Gallarath, do you believe that allowing snowmobile system, did I read? Yep,
No, you haven't answered the question, correct? Sorry. With four of them, I'm getting a little bit, having to keep my notes here. But do you believe that allowing snowmelt systems powered by fossil fuels runs afoul of the city's climate action goals?
Using fossil fuels to clear snow would obviously run afoul of your climate goals. But, I don't believe that homes and businesses should be treated differently. Just because homes and businesses are different, the square footage should make a difference too. And why can't people just shovel snow? And if you're too old or disabled to, there's young people in the community. And when I was a kid, I mowed lawns, I shoveled snow, I did rake leaves, whatever it took. And I made money and, and that helped me start out in the beginning. So, if you shovel the snow regularly, like every day or two, it's not an issue. But if you wait a week or so for it to get a foot deep, then it's impossible. And I know people who do that. You just can't ignore the snow. And if you can't shovel it, people will volunteer. If somebody couldn't pay to have me shovel the snow, I'd do it for nothing. That's my comment.
Thank you. Third question, Mr. Montino, we'll start with you. Aside from housing, what is the biggest challenge currently facing Steamboat and how do you plan on addressing it?
I think in addition to housing, but it's certainly interrelated to housing is our workforce. I am concerned that we are losing workforce. We're losing young people who, as I said before, that demographic is declining faster than any other demographic. And we know which one is growing faster than ever because a couple of us are probably in that demographic up here. But, I really think we need to address that. One of the areas that I think we can do short term is just like the Roaring Fork RTA, where they have transit buses from Aspen all the way to Rifle, 70 miles. We can do the same thing from Moffat County, from Craig all the way to Oak Creek. We can increase the frequency. We can have connectors of buses that go into neighborhoods and meet at central terminals and bring people here. And I think by doing that, I've talked to several businesses who actually tell me they would actually offer that as a perk and subsidize that because it's a retention strategy to keep their employees.
Thank you. Mr. Augusta, same question to you. Aside from housing, what is the biggest challenge currently facing Steamboat and how do you plan on addressing it?
I agree with you in terms of workforce is our next, big challenge, but I do tie workforce to housing. And because people want to come here, they want to be here, but they can't be here because there was no place to live. So the next step on the train there is transportation, and next step on the train is on purpose is because there's actually a chink in the armor right now. If you're not aware that the coal fire power plants are shutting down in next 4 years, and those rail systems will actually be available. And the Union Pacific is actually willing to talk to it with us, and ours talking to us about putting a rail system from Craig all the way to Oak Creek. Can you imagine, hopping on, for people who have housing issues, they can actually, live in Craig and come in the Steamboat. The other thing is busing and more putting together a regional transportation system. So I'm out of town, so I'll let you go with that, but thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Levin, what do you believe, aside from housing, is the biggest issue currently facing Steamboat, and how would you plan on addressing it?
To do their jobs. The train is a great opportunity down the road, but also dealing with Union Pacific is not an easy thing. They're in communications right now with them. I talked to Tim earlier, Commissioner, and there's things going with that. But bus stands and things, and using buses, you can't force people to take transportation. People have their cars, and that would be the biggest thing west of town going with the brown drives. We need to fix the infrastructure to what we have now. Okay, our water systems, water treatment, our sewer systems, we all know how that happens when we get 30,000 people here. Things don't work like they're supposed to. We had contamination in our water system not too long ago. These things need to be taken care of more than anything for the people that live here in the valley.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Galloway, aside from housing, what do you believe is the biggest challenge currently facing Steamboat, and do you believe in addressing it?
Well, clearly housing is the number one issue, and that impacts employment. Employment is it. I work in a restaurant. We don't have a busser. We don't have a host. We just lost our best boiler because he can't afford to live in this town. Hosts and bussers, they don't make enough money to live in this town. I'm a waiter. I'm blessed. I make a decent amount of money. We have our owners working the line. We have our owners working the bar. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Mike, for letting me have the night off. But if we don't have the housing, we won't have the employees. We don't have the employees. Businesses are going to be empty, and people aren't going to want to go out. They're not going to get the service they want. I mean, that's it. It's employment is the number 2 issue in town.
Thank you, sir. And for our final question today, we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Augusta. Some city council meetings have run for 7 hours in duration or longer. How will you balance the efficiency of conducting public meetings with full transparency?
Well, what transparency is about is actually having a clear set of goals and objectives and that are measured. And one of the problems I've been seeing in attending the council meetings is sometimes it's, the arguments get around or the discussions get around lack of understanding what you're really trying to achieve, and that all the stakeholders don't have that common vision. So the very first step of getting efficiency is basically having a clear understanding amongst all your stakeholders before you begin about what your goals, objectives, and how you are going to measure those. And that brings efficiency of the project, because whenever questions come up, you go back to the goals and objectives and how you're measuring for your guidance.
Thank you. Mr. Levin, how will you balance the efficiency of conducting public business during city council meetings with full transparency?
Well, I haven't seen transparency on the city council here for a lot of years. So transparency is something that you got to be honest with the people that you're talking to. And I believe in all these executive closed door sessions. That's not right. There's a time and a place for sessions, but closed door sessions. But these people voted you in, and these people should be allowed to hear, being citizens of Steamboat, what you're talking about. And that doesn't happen. So I would do everything in my power to make sure that we get the point to the people, talk to the people. And some of these issues that just keep going back and forth, the same questions are answered. Let's get them together. Let's get things straight. Let's do it right. We haven't done that in a while. We've got Ski Times Square sitting there. Someone tell me how much money we've lost in taxation on that since the tear down in 2007.
Thank you, sir. Same question to you, Mr. Galloway. How would you balance the efficiency of conducting public business during city council meetings with full transparency?
Actually, this gives me an opportunity to thank not only the Steamboat Grand and our sponsors and the organizers of this meeting, but more importantly, the audience and all those folks at home. And that's where I'm tying this together. The technology to allow people to attend city council meetings at home allows there to be a great amount of transparency. But to add to that, maybe they should put agendas of all the city council meetings in the newspaper. We got a free newspaper. People read it, put the agenda in there, have people go into the Zoom meetings and attend. I spent 6 hours yesterday watching that meeting going on and on about everything, about all the issues and propositions in Brown's Ranch. And there were people who lined up in the audience and were at home up to like midnight trying to let their opinions be shown. So it's the technology, and the newspaper could help with the transparency with our city council meetings and the public. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Martin, how would you balance the efficiency of conducting public business at city council meetings with offering full transparency?
Yeah, I think if you look at the qualities of great teams, and let's be honest, city council is a team. It starts with mutual respect and trust. That has to be at a high level because that leads then to healthy conflict, healthy dialogue, different perspectives so that we can build on more effective solutions. And once we do that, then we can be committed to move forward and hold each other accountable to get the results. I know that we can do and raise our game in this. All great teams constantly raise their game. The other point I would make is you cannot have effective meetings that run at 11 o'clock at night when you've been working all day long. There just is not the brain capacity in the human to do that. We can't have that. I would rather add a fourth Tuesday of the month and cut back to just a couple priorities that we talk about at these sessions and do that than have these long sessions, which are not productive when you run them that long, in my view.
Thank you very much. And that'll wrap it up for our questions. At this point, we'll move into closing statements. Mr. Augusta, since you went last, if you would like to go first this time. Did he? Did I skip someone?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I thought I had 4, but sometimes it's hard to keep track. It really is. But sorry, go ahead. It starts now.
Don't have any prepared final responses, but basically my vision is that we have 5 years from now is that we have a vibrant, diversified community. And we need to take the steps now to actually get there. We need to build in diversity. We had diversity. We're slightly losing some of that because of the housing challenges. And I don't want to continue to kick the can down the road for not only housing, but also things like Highway 40, where we're actually going to need to get together with the Routt County, with CDOT, with the city planners, and really figure out what can and can't we do. We've been talking about it. We need a plan. Then people talk about taxes, and we want to hit the mill level taxes, but you can't talk about how you want to pay for something until you know what you want to do. So my vision is that people look back at us and say, we didn't kick the can, we're solving the problem. And we've become the vibrant community that we all.
Thank you, sir. Closing statement, Mr. Martin, if you'd like to offer yourself.
Yes, one of the reasons I'm running is because this is a nonpartisan position. And I think we can never forget that we are all here for one reason, and that is what is the best for Steamboat. And that should be the question we constantly ask ourselves in a nonpartisan way. And we should be able to come up with solutions that answer that question in a positive way and move us forward. I really believe the character of this community is one of the most important things that separates Steamboat from every other resort town that I've been at. And everybody who visits here, they always talk about it. So I know we can do it. And I think that my background, which I haven't really talked about here, I've been in business for quite a long time, 35 years, but you can look at the materials I left and you can go to the website on there and find my background and skill set and all of that. But I believe that in a nonpartisan way, we can solve the problems of Steamboat. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Galloway, if you would like to offer your closing statements now.
Thank you very much for this extra time. This will give me an opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Chicago and I've been skiing for over 50 years. Our family learned how to ski in the Midwest. My brother went to Wyoming Technical Institute. On the way out to California in 1977, he said, let's stop in Steamboat Springs. We did. And my middle brother fell in love with this place. 35 years ago, he moved here. I chose to go to the Olympic Games for 40 years instead. And I regretted it. And it finally stopped with COVID. I didn't get a chance to go to Tokyo. I didn't get a chance to go to Beijing. Probably better off there. But it finally came down to a home invasion in Chicago two Novembers ago that drove me, broke the camel's back, and had me move out here. And every day that I wake up and look out the window, I regret that I didn't do this 35 years ago. I love this town. There's a number of issues facing it. No one wants to step up to bat to solve the problems. I don't have all the solutions, but I could work well with others, and I think it could be done.
Thank you so much. Mr. Levin, if you would like to offer closing statements now, sir.
Yeah,
I love this valley. I came from a valley about 15, 20 times bigger than this called the San Bernardino Valley in Southern California. I've seen what annexation and growth does and eminent domain does, and that's why I'm here. This has always been a great valley. I mean, it kept me. I mean, I said I'd shovel you know what to stay here when I came here, and I'm still here. And I have a lot of knowledge of this valley, and my passion for this valley and the people in the valley is my number one issue, and that's why I'm running. And I would like to see growth, but we got to work together and we got to do things together. And that seems to be a problem with city councils that we've had and city councils that we've got. And so I'm pretty easy to work with, but I am once again not for putting 10,000 people and that many cars in this valley ever. So
Thank you very much. And this will conclude our 2023 candidate forum. I want to ask for a big round of applause for everybody who spoke tonight. It takes a lot to run for public office. And so big high five. My hats go off to everybody who threw their name in the candidates
This ring. Thank you very much.
Mr. with the mic.
Yes.
Can you just ask if anyone found that they're